Welcome to UMA on the Hill. It's week 3 of the Utah Manufacturers Association Legislative Report. That's right, it's the middle of February already. This weekend is the Super Bowl. I know everybody's more excited about that than you are. What's happening up on Capitol Hill. Nonetheless, we're going to give you a quick report today of some of the things that are happening up there that have an impact on your business as manufacturers in the state. The Utah Manufacturers Association, as you know, voice of manufacturing, and our job is to strengthen and connect Utah's makers. So thanks for being with me today. Todd Bingham, President and CEO of the Utah Manufacturers Association. Glad you could join us for a few minutes. Thought I'd start off this week with something that if you're in my age category, you grew up with this. This is Schoolhouse Rock. It's I'm Just a Bill. For you youngsters out there, maybe never seen this before, a great way to just get a very basic concept and understanding about how a bill becomes a law. So I thought we'd watch this little quick 3-minute piece this morning. Then I'd give some descriptions of how it works in Utah, how the House differs from the Senate, and how a bill does become a law. So this is Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill.
You sure got to climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will, but today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." Then he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee, and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and pray that they will, but today I am still just a bill.
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die?
Yeah, die in committee. Oh, but it looks like I'm going to live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign. And if he signs me, then I'll be a law. I hope and pray that he will. But today I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be a law, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
He signed your bill. Now you're a law.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the memories, right? Saturday mornings, cartoons, watching I'm Just a Bill from Schoolhouse Rock. So, I hope you enjoyed that walk down memory lane. But for me, it's a good intro into talking a little bit for those of you that don't live in the world of politics about how an idea gets drafted in to become a bill, and then how that bill goes through the process. Now, much of what you just heard on Schoolhouse Rock there on I'm Just a Bill is very similar to what happens in the state of Utah. There's a couple of little differences, technical things that happen during the process. A bill is read 3 times in the House. and a bill is read only 2 times in the Senate. But the bill has to have a committee hearing in both bodies. A bill starts as an idea, it's numbered. Once the bill is numbered, the bill becomes public, which means the public can get their hands on it, can take a look at it, can see what it is, and then a bill goes to the Rules Committee in both bodies, the House and the Senate. So if a bill starts in the House, it has to go through the House, and then it has to go through the Senate. Likewise, if a bill starts in the Senate, it has to go through the Senate, and then it has to go through the House. And then it goes to the governor's desk, and the governor has the opportunity to either sign the bill, let the bill go into law on its own, or the governor can veto a bill. And then you've got all kinds of things like veto overrides, depending on how many votes are cast in the affirmative for a bill in each body could mean that the bill is veto-proof and the governor couldn't veto it, those types of things. But, a bill starts in a Rules Committee, and then the chairman of the Rules Committee and the majority party tends to look at which of those bills they want to have a committee, and then they'll come out, they'll be assigned to a various committee. They might be assigned to a committee on natural resources or environment. They might be assigned to a committee on political subdivisions or governmental operations or tax or business and labor. So the bill is assigned to a committee that has committee members or members of the House or the Senate on their respective committees that have experience and expertise in those various areas. And so the bill gets sent to an area where it can be heard by individuals who know the most about that, and then the committees do their work in determining whether a bill has merit and whether it deserves to go to the entire floor of the House or Senate and be debated and heard. And so a bill can pass a committee. A bill could be held in committee, which means it just stays in the committee's possession. Maybe there were concerns about it, questions. Maybe they wanted to make some amendments to it, maybe make a substitute bill, something like that. Then a bill could pass the committee, or a bill could actually be killed in committee. If a bill is voted down in committee, that typically means that the bill would not be heard again. However, the bill could be brought up again should the chair of the committee determine that there's enough votes that the members of the committee want to move that forward. So generally speaking, there are a lot of ways at the Capitol up and during the legislative session to stop a bill from going through. There are lots of opportunities throughout the process in a Rules Committee, in the committee itself, on the floor, during the second reading in this House, during the third reading in the House. You could stop it in the Rules Committee in the Senate. You could stop it and do likewise all the way through the process. So bottom line, there are a lot of ways to stop a bill. There's only one way to pass a bill, and that bill has to be heard in committee, has to be voted upon in the House. It would be voted upon 2 times in the House, and then it would be voted upon 2 times in the Senate as well. Now, both bodies have what they call suspension of the rules, which allows them to move things a little bit and do things a little bit differently than what would typically happen, but those votes and those rules have to be done by majority rule and majority vote. So again, just an update for you as we're up there tracking over 150 bills, looking at how those bills move through the process. We do have just a 45-day session. I think we're in day 29. No, I'm sorry. No, we're day... Never mind. I can't remember what day it is. I can barely remember which day it is of the week. But the end of next week will be halfway through the legislative session. Crazy to think of that with this year being different with all the virtual discussion and all the virtual committees and everything that's going on. But we'll be halfway through the session the end of next week. So 45 days, that's 45 calendar days. So the session moves extremely quickly, and the deeper into the session you get, the more critical the ability to have a bill heard in committee if you're trying to get a bill passed, or the more important to not have a bill get a committee if it's a bill that we're not interested in seeing passed. So time becomes your friend and time becomes your enemy during the legislative session, depending on which bill you're looking at and what you hope the outcome will be. So as always, if you've got any questions on this, please shoot me an email. Todd@umaweb.org is my email address, and happy to answer questions on the process. Again, for me, this is like Christmas. I enjoy this, been doing it 26 years, and I enjoy the legislative process. For most of you, this is not something you want to participate in. That's why we're here as an organization, to protect your business interests and hopefully help you get the benefit out of the legislative session and protect you from unwanted legislation. I wanted to talk just briefly today about one bill that we're tracking up on the Hill, that is a bill that we think could have some real promise for our regulated community, our manufacturers in the state. This is House Bill 217. It's a regulatory sandbox bill that's being run by Representative Cory Malloy in the House and being sponsored by Senator Ann Milner in the Senate. This is a bill that creates a regulatory relief office, and that office would act as a liaison between private businesses and agencies to identify what are state laws and regulations that could potentially be waived or suspended under this regulatory sandbox program. In other words, they would review these types of regulatory issues and see if there are things that are burdensome to business that we could tweak and make adjustments to, that would provide opportunities for new companies, industry expansion, innovation, entrepreneurship, all of those things that help with the economy. This office would be created within the Governor's Office of Economic Development. It would ultimately be overseen by the director of the Office of Governor's Office of Economic Development, Dan Hemmert, who's a former senator, business owner himself, and would oversee that. They would hire a director, and then that director would oversee this regulatory relief program. The program would be made up of 11 individuals on an advisory board, 6 of which would come from industry, and we as an organization would be involved in helping make nominations or suggestions to the people that would serve on this regulatory relief board, to make sure we have expertise in the various sectors that the state focuses on from a economic development standpoint, So whether that be life sciences, aerospace and defense, outdoor manufacturing products, oil and gas, energy, those types of things, manufacturing has a play in nearly every sector that the state focuses on for economic development. This is not the first time we've had something like this happen at the legislature, where we've looked at what is the regulatory scheme, where are the impediments to business, where should government be dealing with regulatory issues, and where should they potentially step aside a little bit. We certainly know that the manufacturing industry is extremely heavily regulated, whether that be in permitting for water or for development, expansion, air quality, all of those different things. The manufacturing industry is extremely regulated. There have been challenges and with the pandemic over the last year with the regulatory scheme. And one of the things we focused on is how to make sure that in the process of our companies trying to survive and trying to maintain their employment with their workforce and continue to drive the economy, that we don't, during the middle of this pandemic, have an influx of regulatory burdens that come forward. And this is another one of those things that helps us get the economy back where it needs to be, allow the companies in Utah to continue to thrive, to drive the economy as manufacturers, and to continue to have that $20+ billion impact on the economy in the state of Utah. So we're anxious to see how this process works as it goes forward. It would include a member of the House of Representatives and a member of the Senate, and then there would be 3 appointed members who represent state agencies. So you've got 6 business and industry people, 3 people that work in the regulatory industries for agencies, and then a member of the House and a member of the Senate. So looking forward to this process to see where it will go. The bill is moving forward. We've had multiple meetings with the representative and the senator. One of the things we would love to see is potentially some language that would go in that would more clearly define what are the sectors that we're addressing Those are in the bill, but we would love as industries to have language in the statute that allows us to make formal recommendations for the people that would serve on that committee with those 6 individuals within those 6 sectors. And so we're working on that. This obviously is something that we'd like to see move forward. Again, we're about halfway through the session. We've got some things we need to keep working on to make sure that this moves through. This is a bill that is supported by leadership in both bodies. And so now we're just getting down into that portion of the Schoolhouse Rock, the I'm just a bill you saw, that not necessarily the argument and the disagreement, but how do we work through the details, the specifics. Obviously in legislation, the devil is in the details. And certainly we always look at legislation and try and determine what could be an unintended consequence if we don't clearly work through the process. That could be a challenge. This bill alone is about 30 pages. I think most of you know, if you don't, when you read a bill that comes out, you'll see what the bill title is, and you'll see which session it is, who the chief sponsor is, which body it starts in, where it moves from. This bill starts in the House, then goes over to the Senate. It gives a general description of the bill. It gives a highlighted provision of the bill. And then new language in the bill is always underlined. And so it becomes pretty easy to actually read a bill. Maybe not easy, but it's easy to determine what the language is that's being proposed that is new. New language is always underlined, and language to be stricken or removed from the current statute would have a line through it. So anything in this bill, which every time you open this, you have to open the code or the section of the code that the bill would go into. So anything that's not underlined is already existing law. That's law that's been there, and you could go back and determine when that went in and with some work. But language that is underlined would then be proposed new language. And a bill can be amended throughout that process, and so even though it's moved through the House, a bill could have language added to it in the Senate. That could be added by any number of senators or the sponsor, the floor sponsor in the Senate. They would simply add more underlined language. They could strike language that was proposed. Now, if the bill, again, this gets back into the process, but if the bill goes through one body, House, and then goes over to the Senate, and language is changed over here in the Senate, removed, added, whatever, the bill that now the Senate is addressing and voting on is different than the bill that was in the House. And so that bill that's over here in the Senate now has to go back to the body in which it started in, and it has to go through what's called concurrence. In other words, the House members have to look at it, they have to see what the new language is, and they have to vote to either concur or not to concur. If they concur, then the bill moves forward and it goes through the process and ultimately ends up on the governor's desk. If they choose not to concur, then they can say back to the Senate, hey, we didn't like your amendments. We don't concur. We're asking you to recede from your amendments and go back to the original bill. Should the Senate say, no, we actually think our amendments are good, we will not recede from our amendments, they send it back to the House. The House says, great, okay, they're not going to concede from that. All right, now we go to what's called a conference committee. And the two bodies would come together. They would choose 3 individuals from each body to go together, sit in a room, and try and come up with an agreement where they could say, all right, we now agree on that. So, again, a bill changes throughout the whole process. It could be amended in committee. It could change in committee, all these things that happen. And so just giving you an idea of how complex things get up at the Capitol and us following those types of bills. A bill rarely starts in one form and ends with the governor signing it in another form. The only case in which that typically happens is if it's a committee bill that has been heard the entire summer during interim meetings and the entire committee has voted in favor of it, and those bills typically, even today, have already passed and may have already been signed by the governor. But most bills with any substance to them or things that haven't been heard go through this process. That's a good thing. It's a good thing that we debate bills and that we talk about them and we determine what is the best thing. This year we've seen we've seen a lesser degree of bills move forward, and I'll just close with this, that during this pandemic, access for the public to get to the Capitol is limited. We all know that. We're all trying to be careful. We're all trying to do what we can to shorten the pandemic. We're doing a lot in vaccines, and thank goodness that the manufacturing community has been able to step up and continue to step up nationally to move the vaccine forward. But we've seen fewer bills filed. My personal opinion, this is not UMA, this is Todd, my personal opinion is the fewer bills that we typically run, that's probably a good thing. We ought to be looking at bills that are critically necessary, that address business, that help business. The less government involvement we have in our businesses and in our lives, I think is generally a good thing. And so this year, I think there's only been just shy of 500 bills filed this year. Typically, we would have close to 800. Again, time still remains for people to file bills and to open those probably through the rest of this week. But, knock on wood, hopefully we have a lesser number of bills, which arguably means a lesser number of bills that pass the session. So again, looking forward to this regulatory sandbox bill and what we're going to be tracking. Again, we'll put the list up on our legislative, on our website. And thanks for tuning in today. Again, if you have questions, concerns, comments, anything, send them to me at todd@umaweb.org. I'll do my best to get back with you as we continue through this legislative session. Thanks for making products in the state of Utah. Thanks for driving the economy. And thanks for what you do for the state. Have a good day.